Thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you come back for the next episode covering the points of this conversation.
And follow the podcast on social media by finding @Prestigious_Pod.
Follow me, Mr. Kent, at Mr. Chris R. Kent.
Follow me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official.
Join our Discord for exclusive content and personal interactions.
And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Bean, on one of my social media platforms, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousInitiative@gmail.com.
Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media. This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Kent, and today here with me I have a very special guest joining. Today I have William Smith, the Director of Strategy and founder of WSC. William, pleasure to have you on, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hey, just want to have a little bit, if you could, a little background about who you are, kind of where you're at today, what you're doing, and kind of a little bit how you got there.
Absolutely. So, my story is not too unique from others. I started off as a developer with dreams and essentially became a solutions architect, working for big banks and firms to being more of a technical advisor for those firms and suggesting and creating 3 to 5 year strategy plans and working with their teams. And essentially now I'm doing that for myself. So WSC is a premier boutique shop where we kind of cover mostly short or small, mid-sized ranged startups. So early pre-stage startups as well as mid-sized firms. And we help them with their technology, right? So we help them with their journey through a POC to a POC, an ideation, and eventually getting bought out or building up their team. And doubling down on that with the new appearance with AI, there's more of a room to bring in more consultancy when it comes to best practices with their strategy. How can we uncover and automate some of their business and ultimately save people time? So.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. So, we're going to kind of get right into it with the heavy topics, and we're talking about, responsibility, talking about technology, and talking about, using technology well. And so I want to, start off with the critical topic of ethical technology. In today's rapidly evolving tech landscape, why do you think it's essential for tech companies to prioritize ethics in their innovations?
It's crazy. 10 years ago, I think the dangers were, bad actors using crypto and doing different schemes via telemarketing or telephone. Now the scare is a lot deeper. So we have issues of deep fake. We have issues with elections. They're calling in and robo-dialing, and it sounds like one of the elected officials. Or, you may hear a snippet of your significant other and, think to say, hey, well, I can kind of be sure that this is her, maybe this is him, her, this is something. And then dialing along with that, training the AI, these are all things that we need to try to train ethically, because training the wrong way, just like how you raise a young individual, you run a chance of it growing the wrong way and doing the wrong things, kind of steering to the wrong side. So it's very important that we stay ethically minded when we're evaluating as well as developing these applications, as well as putting a little bit more pressure to state and government officials, because the more that there's a playground to do whatever you want, the more bad actors are going to utilize that chance of unethically doing things. So, like I said, deep fakes, taking people's pictures and putting them on top of just ridiculous things, and just overall, right? Like us not even having the control. And then the form of right, who's responsibly or who's to blame in this situation? How do we detect and track those things and hold people accountable
Mm.
as human people accountable?
Yeah, like I said, it's an ever changing landscape, and it also is the future. I mean, that's where we're going, is toward technology and the digital systems that we have going on. And as with anything, you want to make sure that people are trying to use it responsibly. And unfortunately, you can't know how it's going to be used, how people are going to take it and use it for the good or for bad. And so trying to think of or plan for those things ahead of time is important, because we want to try to mitigate the negative possibilities, even though we can't foresee all of them. Trying to kind of work through that is essential and is crucial. And I'm interested, talking about AI, leveraging AI for business growth is kind of a hot topic, I think. And how do you think that AI can empower small and mid-sized businesses to accelerate their growth and help them staying competitive?
So the good thing really is we have a chance to really stay competitive with bigger companies. So bigger companies have teams of hundreds across the globe that are specialized in specific areas. With a small business, you don't have too much room to wiggle. You really have to be secure with the funding that you have and how do you allocate those fundings. So AI provides a really good way to not only automate some of our workflow and processes, but also gives us a chance to have expert advice at a very so sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. It allows us to have expert advice in a very short window of time, as well as whenever, wherever, however. Then we can tailor this specifically to our needs and our specific goals, how we want the message to be across. It just enables us to do more, really, like being able to take a huge blob of text and infusing it with our mission statement, our goals, our initiatives, and that being our ironclad messaging for marketing, promotionals, then turn around and making your own marketing strategy plan, then turn around making your own business plan. It would have taken months, weeks just to build documents like these. Now it's taking us seconds. So the enablement is rapid.
Yeah, and I definitely know a lot of people that are on both sides of this. Some people think that AI is wrong, it's not good, but also it is a tool that can be useful in growth and in brainstorming, coming up with ideas and implementing those ideas. And so I think, like you said, it's a great tool that can be used by any size business, but specifically small to mid-sized businesses that are trying to focus on their growth, helping them to stay competitive. And I again, per our earlier kind of topic, I think it's important to be conscious of what you're doing with AI, what you're doing with technology, and of course, being aware of the impacts of what that is. But it definitely can be a tool that can be used to aid and assist and help, again, gain that competitive edge and work with growth.
Absolutely. And I'm always for it, right? Like I love AI, I love where it's going, and the conversations are definitely needing to be had. And it's good that we're having some cynicism, but also we need more forward thinking individuals who can really push the narrative, push the barrier when it comes to what we should be doing, where can we go. I think the biggest scare of having all that automation is the displacement of jobs, and
Mm.
also just in general like getting rid of a lot of our processes. But realistically, right, like who wants to keep doing these automatable tasks? When the early days of the cars were invented, they had a person who was doing the hand signals to signal on people to go through intersections. Now we have traffic signals. Do you think that, big cities like Chicago, we needed 100,000 people on the street just to bring them through an intersection? No, I think a lot of these things, we could be doing other tasks in our lives or living better daily lives or whatever, and letting computers automate the things that we need to let them do. So the enablement assists us with our day to day, but also looking on the flip side too, right? Like the scares, the worries, children in the future is always one thing that we have to worry about. But ultimately, it's a good conversation to have by both sides.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and kind of doing a little bit of forward thinking. I think the future of AI holds immense potential. Do you have any idea of any trends or AI things that are happening that might help to shape various industries?
Yes. So a little bit of plug. I also wrote a book that I forgot to mention on the futures of tech. And one of the things I kind of list out is a new marketplace when it comes to um, extended reality, artificial reality, advertising, and kind of seeing that with the Apple Vision Pro, where new, right? Like before, you may have had the what's it called, the Meta Quest. You may have had the Meta Quest, but it was more or less like an in-home tool, and a lot of people used it outside. But now we have the Vision Pro that kind of works in cohesion with our computer, computer and our phone, and people are using it outside. People are kind of goofing off, doing whatever, having fun, but it's an enabled reality on top of just our day-to-day lives. And it's an initial stage, but marketing, advertising, huge when it comes to this. Imagine, you're browsing the internet, and instead of a window this size displaying your advertisement, you have a gigantic, full immersive experience when it comes to experiencing the content that you're looking to address towards this individual. Now, there's also downsides, right? That stuff gets annoying, but at least, right, like hopefully it's more targeted and it's more immersive to the point where it's not, too immersive.
Yeah, okay, yeah, very cool. And so, as we're talking about that, it obviously tech is playing a big role. We're taking that big step forward, and it's interesting to think that you have things like Apple Vision Pro and the things that it's capable of, and what that opens up for software developers, for technology companies, for people that are even creating apps, and what you can do with that. How far that expands everything is huge, and obviously tech has a big role in driving social impact. I think that's very fascinating. So as we kind of step into this new era, or we continue to witness the growth of all this tech, and the diversity of what it's able to do you have any examples of how this technology has been harnessed to address global challenges?
AI specifically, I think it's definitely going to help when it comes to sustainability. So the biggest thing right now is, training these models take a lot of energy, and a lot of our issues with carbonization and ozones and just too much emissions and on the earth. I think a lot of those technologies spew from different industries, different products. But when it comes to new automation, cleaner factories and cleaner systems are going to help really enable us to make bigger change when it comes to our 2040, 2050, 2060 initiatives, where we're trying to be more green, more compliant for the earth. And, with an AI, the scare definitely is more energy and more usage. But the hope is that we find smarter ways to build these systems, solve our problems. When it comes to like the menial tasks, the big factories with the huge assembly lines, shorting in them and being more carbon neutral, just being able to, and using digital twins, like all of these things kind of help with the efficiency of how we do on a day to day in these factories, and um, pinpointing those uh, necessary needs when it comes to sustainability. So,
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think that, tech professionals like you are playing a pivotal role in that social responsibility, trying to help industries contribute to social causes and make that lasting positive impact is important and essential. And again, that's where people like you are making a big step and kind of getting ahead of this, imagining where it's going to go and seeing where it is going already and kind of taking the reins on that. And, I kind of wanted to shift gears a little bit back into something we mentioned in your background. And I wanted to get into the idea of these digital transformation strategies. Could you share any insights into effective strategies for a business looking to embark on the digital transformation journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main thing is, when you think digital transformation, um, the funny, cool buzzword is, that we can break it down into simple terms, right? Like, what do you have now that's running inefficiently, not really updated or managed well, giving the organization a hard time to support and understand? And, you know, how do we change? How do we enable growth in this system? And then going back a little bit, how do we make change enablement in our organization? Because just how systems can grow old and get tired, um, people's mindsets can become more older and more tired, and they don't, they seem less susceptible to change. Satya mentioned two forms. You have, a fixed mindset and you have a growth mindset. And the fixed mindset setters are usually the people who are, hey, we like it this way. There's not too much that needs to be done. No barriers to push, whatever, we're fine how it is. And you have the growth mindsetters where they're always pushing the needle. They're open for suggestions, open for improvement, open for change. And when you think about how organizations can utilize these things, right, you can go from being, hey, we don't know what we don't know, but we're willing to learn, we're willing to educate, we're willing to change. And then you have the next step up, which is, okay, we are full on, we have backing. How do we first start? And then just enablement within the system, organizations, the processes. How do we enable and automate some of our workflows physically? And then how do we do that digitally? So software being uh, modernized from older systems, maybe it's, probably systems older than me and you too in this room, to being more cutting edge, more supportable, API worthy, building out of data, more insights into our company and our strategies, and then just uncovering some of those nuggets that those challenges kind of provided.
Yeah, and for our business-minded listeners, do you have any examples of different apps or systems or software that you use for some of this tracking, some of this planning and things like that?
So usually when I look at a system or I assess or do my, digital transformation strategies, um, you know, it's a combination of, right, like, what are we using now? How are we using it? So more observability. Some certain systems are old COBOL systems. Certain systems are based on, you know, data technology that predates, cloud and APIs. And my strategy, right, like sometimes simply in a note taking app, right? Like, so
Mm.
like a notes or Sublime or whatever, just capture some of the things that's going on. Understand some of those deficiencies, try to write those technologies down. And then from a moving on to a newer fleshed out system, utilization of APIs. So these are, web APIs that you can develop. They have so many stacks. You have, the Java stack where you can have Spring Boot, and the .NET stack where you can have web APIs and whatever. And then, moving those to a cloud-based platform like Azure, AWS, or GCP, or any of the other ones that's coming out too. And then just organizing, articulating the cloud the way you want it to, and either dealing with big requests. You have systems like Kafka and Event Hub that can take all of those requests and move them into your system. Insights and data, you have the data portion of things where it's stored in SQL, NoSQL databases, and then you have um, charts of information that dates back from X to Y, and then just displaying them in a nice format like Tableau. And just overall, just like having control of the organization. It's kind of like building Legos. Each piece has a purpose, and the goal is to figure out that purpose so that you're not wasting money, you're not wasting spin, but you're making sure each brick has been sealed with a purpose.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very, again, to hear the consciousness and the intention behind setting up these systems and using them for a way that's going to help you be more productive, help you to track things better, and help you to ultimately grow. I think is the best way that we can be using some of this technology and leveraging it to our advantage. And as we're talking business wise, I'm kind of curious too. I can imagine in your personal life, you also involve a lot of technology in helping you to organize things or kind of integrate them into your personal life. Do you have any favorite different systems, apps, or anything like that that you use every day that you think make your life better?
Absolutely, man. I use, Trello like it's my Bible. Like Trello and my calendar really helps me out. So usually when per project, right? Like if there's a specific project that comes out, kind of write it off as, new card, kind of list out some of the items, making a little template. And then when it comes to the talking interaction phase, you can take note-taking apps. I'm starting to look into AI note-taking apps. Some work, some don't. You have Fireflies and you have upper ones like Otter or something like that. That takes the notes when you have those interactions, the things that you miss that may come up, so you can just focus on just talking with the individual. In certain cases, there would be a need for Jira, if you're working with an organization, but typically you don't need something like that. You just honestly just need face-to-face note taking and going from there. Visio is another one that I use. But if someone doesn't have Visio, you can use Figma or even Canva. In my day-to-day, also I use Canva for really almost anything that want to make look pretty. If I have some of the video templates that I use, so like the thumbnails that I use for my videos on YouTube, I use Canva. That kind of helps with my just creational phase, and because I'm not very creative, and I kind of want to crank it out as best I can, so that works out very well for me. And just the communication portion of things, right? You have Slack and Discord, and I have two teams. So I kind of split flop on. So those are one of the things that kind of help me kind of manage my team and make sure they kind of work together. And Spotify, you got to listen to some jams, right?
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned some videos and some things you do on the side. I know looking into you before this conversation we had now, you have some other stuff going on. And so I'm interested, I guess a couple of questions will stem from that, but I'll just start with one. How do you balance, your work life with your relaxation or fun life, and sometimes I'm sure those things overlap and sometimes I'm sure they're separate, and what kind of boundaries do you put in place when it comes to being productive and then also relaxing and doing things you enjoy?
That's a good question. You know, for the organization portion of things, I have a Trello, I have a calendar because, and I forgot another tool, Calendly. Calendly helps me out so much, right? So we connected via Calendar. We, coordinated this interview. Um, it's very important that I make sure that I am up to date when it comes to events and then ideas that come out that I may think of, because I want to kind of have an ease of mind. And when you're a business owner, or even when you're just a technologist and work, you want to learn how to manage stress. If you don't know how to manage stress, it's going to be very nerve wracking. So the key is to alleviate some of those stress points. So the stress points is, oh, I just missed a meeting. F. Oh, I just forgot to do something. I had an idea and it had it on the tip of my mind. I didn't write it down. Crap. How do I remediate some of those things? So we have the app, note taking. Hopefully, right, like around 12 o'clock, you kind of leave some space for some lunch. Then afterwards, you kind of like clock off 5, 6. But typically when working and stuff, it bellies over. Uh, Usually just keep Saturdays, Sundays clean. I don't really do any work on those days, nor do I do any meetings on Fridays. Um, what I mean by meetings, like I gotta like I set something just to meet with somebody. Usually I kind of keep those open, and just kind of just have a positive mindset ultimately, because that's really what keeps me afloat. Just positivity, you know, being more optimistic. It's good to be some sort of pessimistic, have some sort of pessimism, but being more optimistic, positive, kind of has a better oversight. It helps me better my day, and kind of keeps me going.
For sure, yeah. Like you said, I think setting those boundaries as far as like what you will do within a week and on what days you won't do certain things, and keeping the weekends free is in my opinion essential, especially when you're dealing with, as you said, trying to eliminate stressors. I know that a lot of people work differently. A lot of people are able to handle a lot more and be able to balance some of that better than other people. But I think it's important to know yourself. Because some people might be able to take more meetings for the rest of the week or keep up that meeting schedule the whole time. But like you said, having systems where we can take notes, having our calendar organized, and having a place where we can just kind of step back and give ourselves some space is important. And it does come down to knowing you and knowing how you work and what's going to be good for you in the long run. And beneficial to that process is technology, and being able to utilize that again as a tool to help us in the right direction and help us deal with those things is definitely beneficial. Uh, you know, you're listing some different apps and systems and stuff that I've never heard of, which is kind of crazy too, because you think you know all that's out there, but we barely scratch the surface. There's so much technology, so much innovation, so much, uh, uh, you know, uh, different digital things that can be beneficial to us. And if you look into it, find out what works for you, and implement it into your life, it is a powerful tool that is only going to keep getting more and more beneficial and going to keep growing as we progress into the future.
Absolutely.
Well, William, thank you for your wealth of knowledge. I've really enjoyed sitting down with you and kind of hearing your insight on some of these topics. And before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or key takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience?
You know, One thing I like to tell people that's listening, I guess whether we like it or not, AI is here to stay. And the next few years is going to be about how do we enable AI with our organizations, our jobs. It's not really at a point where it'll displace everything 100%, but for the most part, our day-to-day jobs, whether we're assisting, developing, collaborating, it's all going to have some sort of API element attached to it. So the better we are with these tools and how they using ChatGPT, Claude, the better we are with utilizing these tools, the more successful, enabled we're going to be in the future. So get in early, get get going with ChatGPT. Uh, you don't have to attend a meeting or anything or join a rally. You just get comfortable with using it. Uh, Overhear some of the conversations that's being had, and just learn how to improve your day and your work life with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And if listeners wanted to find out more about you and what you're doing through WSC, where can they go to learn more about you?
Absolutely. So, you know, the main thing, right? I have a few websites. So we have wsctechconsulting.com, which is the more corporate site. And then when it comes to different things with the YouTube, I have a YouTube called WSC Tech, and you can check that out at YouTube and also LinkedIn, Jesus, YouTube and Instagram. And I also have a LinkedIn, Emerging Tech Will. So please connect with me. Say, hey, shout out, Chris, hey, thanks for checking out the video. And yeah, you can definitely check me out on those. I post pretty frequently, especially on YouTube. I got a few things coming out in the next few weeks. So looking forward to showing you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to leave links for those places in our show notes today. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Prestigious Initiative. If you found this discussion as enlightening as I did, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Remember, ethical tech and smart digital transformation are keys to success in today's world. Until next time, keep innovating and make every day count.